You don't think Roboquest is 4 hours worth of content? Well, there you go. You heard it here first, folks. Tyler thinks Roboquest is dog shit.
It doesn't actually have achievements. I just realised. I guess it's
What?
still.
I remember. I feel like I remember getting achievements for it.
No, there are no achievements.
No chieves.
I'm gonna see if
I
there's.
meet someone. I am chieved to meet them.
It doesn't show. It doesn't record how long you've been playing it either.
Oh, I kind of wish it did. To be honest,
Yeah.
that's what you get for being in early access.
Yeah.
Idiots. That's not fair. Because we wouldn't be saying something like that and still be doing this video. Because this is the second episode ever of the world famous television program Feature Thief. And we chose Roboquest because it's fucking awesome. And it was kind of always gonna be. It was like, I can't remember what point the series was conceptualized, but I feel like I remember it being slightly before we started playing Roboquest, and then we started playing Roboquest, and it's like, we're probably gonna do that on this. And it's not the first thing. We've played it on stream a couple of times, and we've done one podcast episode on it. But that's not the end of Roboquest content on BarrelVision.com.
This is only the beginning.
Well, I mean, I do think about this sometimes, and I feel like I don't, because it's going to be difficult to. I don't think we're going to cover another game in the same way that we cover Deep Rock. To be honest, it'd be difficult.
Deep Rock's always got enough for it to be the primary, right?
Exactly, and I really do. I don't pride myself in it necessarily, but I do like that we're very, very, very comprehensive source of Deep Rock news. As in, maybe a couple things here and there have been missed, but in essence, since we started, it's been pretty much every piece of Deep Rock news and every thing that you need, especially from now, because obviously I wouldn't say beforehand we did every single patch. I definitely will do now, for obvious reasons. Because the post-launch, like post-update launch patches, do tend to be less interesting. But even then, I was thinking of like grouping them together, even if they're not that interesting. Like every 3, I'll do like a patch roundup, even just so I've covered all that stuff. So Barrel Vision can just be a library of all like I guess contemporary Deep Rock information, all Deep Rock information like that comes out basically. And we are that, and there is like enough, especially when you factor in something like the Dev Q&A. But Roboquest is absolutely a game we're interested in keeping tabs on, and for example, there's going to be more to do with Roboquest on the channel, like around like the 1.0 launch. Obviously, going to play it. We might do another episode on it, possibly. And yeah, it's also. It's not like it's like Deep Rock, is it? But it's like it's cut from a similar cloth, in my opinion.
Yeah, it comes from a assumedly small dev team of not that many people from a country that isn't America. I think that is also slightly worth mentioning. Like they're from France.
Go Europe. Europe #1 game developers.
Yeah. And it's a pre-launch, which obviously Deep Rock isn't that now, but it was that. And you kind of the game is being formed in front of you, and we've only jumped on at like I guess the final step of that.
Yeah, the next thing that's going to happen is the final step. It's the 1.0 launch. To be fair,
but still before 1.0, it's always nice getting into a game that early. But yeah, it just feels a lot like Deep Rock in its earlier days. There are some differences in a lot of the gameplay elements, but also some similarities, which you'll probably see going through the game on the wiki. Because there are some things that we may, we kid around that maybe they did a bit of a feature thief themselves on Deep Rock. There's some striking similarities between some weapons, which was inevitable in 2 games with pretty weapon-based stuff, right? And like elements. Point is, I think we could start.
Yeah, well, I like to think about these videos a bit like it doesn't in sort of like categories of content or categories of features in games. Not that we have to spend the same amount of time on each category, but I think about like locations, for example, and then it's like what biomes can come from that, and then also obviously weapons or even like classes and equipment. As in, I get suspicion. I have a very sneaking suspicion that Roboquest might not have much to go on in terms of locations, which is why part of me almost, what the fuck is going on here?
Good start.
Yeah, that is a good start. Now, okay. So I want to point out, if this doesn't work, I do remember being on a Roboquest wiki and looking things up. It definitely worked. So let's try and search something. For example, corrupted city. Stay with me, guys. Right, levels. Perfect. Levels are mapped with it. Okay, that's all of them. So we got canyon, ruins, but that's kind of not really the same concept. Ruins, fields, oasis, quarry, aqua station, energy center, haven city, and haven city corrupted. There you go. And you could go any which way with this. Obviously, if you just went with canyon, that's just sandblasted corridors. And ruins, well, we have a really like long running idea of like like an ancient city biome, but that's not exactly what this is. I guess it is this. It is kind of the same concept, but this is like modern, real world civilization city ruins. It's not really the same thing. Once again, and then all of the other ones are like weird sort of like techno locations. But Oasis, I might want to bring up because not as its own thing, but maybe it's something the sandblasted corridors could do with. Is areas like this, oasis like areas.
Greenery.
Yeah, little and pools as well, because they actually talked about water again recently. It was on the most recent dev stream. I tuned in a little bit, and they said something about water and how they could do contained bodies of water. You're never going to have like flowing water that changes based on what you do, but they could have like something that they actually had was they had something like this. It wasn't water, it was but they had like liquid like pools of some kind. It's going to annoy Tyler. They had done something like this for the caustic mire.
In a way, else to do it, but yeah, the pockets of caustic.
But like you would have like oasis, like little mini areas in like oasis areas in the sandblasted corridors. I don't know what they would do. They could be, but you have like weird zones like the error henge or the gravity pits in the Azure World. It could be something similar to that. It could help you in some way even. I don't know how. Maybe the water you could drink it and it could actually give you health or something.
Like maybe it refills your health a little bit, or boosts your shield regen, something like that.
Exactly. But you could also find like liquids like drinking as well.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Like like water buffaloes or something like that.
Yeah, or maybe actually a passive creature. Yeah.
That would be cool, because I think that is a place where we could, though the devs could start looking towards in the future, just splicing up some of the older biomes if they don't actually feel like adding newer ones. And I feel like adding a little pocket biome of the oasis in the Sandblasted would do a lot of good for that biome.
And actually cacti as well. Cacti that roll, like the underground desert from Terraria. Although we probably shouldn't bring it up again, because Terraria had a lot of actually, I think, locations, like, sort of things that you could turn into biomes. And I feel like the only other one is probably going to be a similar idea, which is like the corrupted city, which is just the concept of a corrupted biome, basically. Which I'm not inherently pitching that. Obviously, a lot of people wanted like a rockpox biome, right? Which is kind of understandable. I think the only reason that came up though is because people could visualize it very easily, right? Because we already have like infected terrain, so like I can. So it just you already have like the actual what it would look like, and then all your brain has to do is just expand that to an entire cave system.
There's like it's a different type though. This corruption, obviously, and this might be in an episode in the distant future. I don't think we've talked about it much, but No Man's Sky has done a very similar thing recently, with purple crystalline corruption, which is like what
it's almost a trope, isn't it? Though.
Yeah, it definitely.
Like Chorus even had it. I'm pretty sure that was red.
I mean, Deep Rock does have purple crystals. I don't think it's considered an infection, but that kind of thing. But that could be a place it would stem from. The crystalline cavern, a certain type of crystal has started spreading, something along those lines, and we could get some corrupted missions with those crystals coming out of it, and it would look pretty cool in some places, I would imagine. And I think that would rub off a little bit more of the Haven City corruption and other types of corruption than a Rockbox corruption. The more something isn't right here than the natural corruption that is Rockbox. Um, like, Rockbox is pretty natural, if you know what I mean. It's clearly a living creature spreading naturally, but this corruption is not natural in any way, shape, or form.
It's
Right?
almost more like a disease that Hoxie's itself caught. It's like Hoxie's actually kind of like sick, and there's some corruption deep within it. And it's not obviously it's not a very nice way to put it, but it is more like a cancer where it just springs up within someone, and it's like a tumor forms that would be this corruption inside Hoxie. But it's completely on its own. It doesn't come from an outside source. It's just something went wrong in Hoxie's makeup. Maybe a tectonic shift caused it. Maybe it was just something that was dormant and was awoken by maybe by the Rockbox even. You could go in lots of directions.
An interesting thing that I missed in the overview of those things is that this and the No Man's Sky ones predominantly affect the robot population. Like, this is a very technological place, and there are sentinels and robot type enemies in No Man's Sky, and they're the things that are getting affected by the corruption. So we could maybe in some distant future get a rival based corruption, where they are now getting corrupted with something, and that's gonna be like a
it would literally be though like the rivals like Rockbox equivalent though.
Yeah,
they would get like crystalline formations on them, but they'd basically be like the blisters, that you break. But obviously, I mean, I don't think about that much, but I suppose it is interesting. That really does tell you how much how much the robots are in a bubble, because obviously the Rockbox hasn't affected everything, but it's pretty much dipped its toes into every type of thing. We can affect Glyphids and Bacteria and Nadocytes, and I guess even trawlers if you count cut concept, but like obviously not robots. I mean, obviously not, because it'd be very hard to imagine a biological infection affecting them. But it just more clearly illustrates the fact that they are very much the seasonal content specifically is going to not touch each other.
Yeah, I think there is also, there already is a type of creature which affects mechanical based enemies, being the charge suckers on the Betsy. So if they wanted to have a plague upon the robots, they already kind of have one ready. Like,
I mean, I want that, but not with the robots. I want them to do more with the charge suckers and have it be sort of like a DRG hardware thing, where you have to fight things that you wouldn't have expected, like Doretta and things like that.
The charge suckers wouldn't look good anymore. I mean, like,
well, they would just revamp them, I guess. If they, I'm just saying, if they did a season focusing on them, they would revamp them.
Yeah, maybe revamp them into like a purple-based crystalline thing, or maybe not purple, so it's not as obvious. But I think corrupted, but in not a natural way, like in a very clearly what's going on here type way, is always an interesting type of thing to do.
Yeah, if you wanted to do that based on something already in Deep Rock, you'd probably go the way of like something to do with error cubes and like sort of like, I imagine like glitchy environments that always comes to mind, and like the corrupted city, like Haven City corrupted, like you have it feels like it almost feels glitchy with the way it's like sort of floating debris, like cubic debris. Yeah, it's like
the corruption in Roboquest feels more like reality is collapsing at the seams more than something spreading, right? I don't know. It's funky.
I mean, that's absolutely something. Just like a sort of almost magical. It's just like something's wrong with like that fabric of the universe type corruption. That sounds very high stakes. It doesn't have to inherently be. I've just always liked the idea of something like that in Deep Rock. Just almost like the whole point is just to drive home the idea that just something is wrong. It doesn't even have to go that far. If they can just drive home that sensation, then they would have done something there.
Yeah,
I reckon.
I think that's probably it for the biomes.
Well, I mean, that was extrapolations anyway. Well, yeah, but
pretty
like I
good.
said, it was kind of just extrapolations anyway, really. But yeah,
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, yeah.
I don't know. Some reason I want to go to classes, not for new classes, right? Obviously, but I do like Roboquest classes though, because they're really not. I mean, they kind of fit in with some tropes. I mean, they definitely do, like Ranger and Guardian, sort of like
Yeah,
Berserk and stuff. But obviously, Engineer and Ranger in name though. But Guardian and Recon and like, Commando are sort of like more like sort of abstract ones that aren't.
yeah, Commando
Like
is
DRG.
weird.
DRG has. You expect like Engineer, Scout, and Gunner, but then you have Driller. And I feel like Roboquest has got a bit of that going on as well. Maybe just with Commando though. Either way, I'm only really bringing up the classes themselves. Maybe for perks or actually, I was thinking more about gadgets. I'm not sure, but I'm just thinking about what they sort of do. You have obviously Ranger's got his hologram and stuff. Commando's weird because he's just got like a wrist shotgun. He's just got weapons basically. So I don't know quite about that. I mean, obviously, Engineer. Like this is the opposite. This is the other Engineer basically. We talk about the subclass idea. This is the other Engineer, or like, yeah, he just uses drones basically.
Turrets, drones, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty simple.
Which, I mean, if we didn't go the whole alternate equipment route, you could always do a third tier 1, which would be a floating turret that would follow you. Something like that would
Oh
be
yeah, yeah,
idea.
sure. I was just thinking of the other guys. I mean, Guardian's obviously got his hammer, but sometimes he has a hammer. You can get a bonk hammer. I mean, Guardian is shield actually. This is one of the ones I had. Yeah, I suppose Guardian's shield is interesting because he is kind of he's meant to be a bit of a guardian, like for your teammates, or I guess your one teammate, kind of. But his shield is like stuck to him as well, which was actually one of the overclocks I came up with for the shield generator, separate from Roboquest. We hadn't played it yet. We didn't know about it at that time, and it was basically you send out the shield, but it just attached itself to you basically, so you're just a walking shield. And that's what Guardian has basically, and then but it sort of goes a bit further. But in terms of like the really unique stuff they have, obviously Recon has Blink, and I don't know if there's any room for something like that in Deep Rock. Like, I just don't know, but it's pretty cool. Like we don't really have teleportation really in any way. Like aside from obviously we have it on a conceptual level because the rivals like they teleport in, but there's no real active like in-game enemies teleporting to you or behind you or you having a way to teleport.
Definitely, the Deep Rock we have right now doesn't support it. Not that it's impossible, because you could easily make just like this. Once again, it's not the Deep Rock we have now, but Engineer gets a new traversal where he can set up teleporters, which he, with R&D discovered from dissecting rivals, right? Some bollocks like that.
Yeah, I mean definitely that's not really Blink. I mean I'd imagine like Blink being like obviously we know this isn't gonna happen, but like a I guess like a grappling hook overclock or something where you just teleports to where you point it basically. But that's like that's quite extreme.
Like teleports like 5 meters in that direction. Not like the whole way of the grappling hook.
I mean, because yeah, well, obviously if they
those are options.
Hmm?
With the new power ups like rocket boots, maybe
teleporter
like
module, yeah,
teleportation system, and it'll be like a cool acronym, like a silly acronym.
Porter.
It's more likely for them.
Porter. I mean, we're gonna get to that actually, but I mean. Obviously, if they ever allowed it, as in if they ever gave in, you would probably get like an unstable grappling hook overclock where it was like really short range, but it was like Blink. And also like quicker recharge too. You can just sort of blink around, but you're limited in how far you can go at one time. But
you could double down on the blink thing with whenever you land with your grappling hook, it stuns enemies around it, because that's obviously a pretty important part of blink.
I mean, in general, I wouldn't mind them bringing over head bonk, but maybe not in general though. Maybe not like as in head bonk is just a thing in Deep Rock now, but with Scout could definitely make use of something where he could hurt enemies by landing on them, obviously. And they all could in a way. I mean, Engineer could as well, definitely.
I think that like it's not something they would probably be capable of doing it at this point in the game, but an element where if you would take full damage from falling and you land on an enemy, it takes the damage for you and probably kills it.
I
Something
mean,
like that.
or like, well, we're about to move on to a sort of more power ups or perk thing. I'm going to go to the gadgets in just a moment, but I was just thinking about if it's all going to be shoes, we could get like spiked boots instead of hover boots, instead of rocket boots or something.
Yeah.
And you like, and they could let you walk up walls and then jump on enemies and hurt them by doing that as well. Like,
Walk at all a certain amount or something, yeah.
yeah, obviously that's not a
They're like
Roboquest thing.
heavy boots and it stops. I would be down if all the power ups were somehow boot related. Like, that is just the form of power ups in this game. It's just all shoes. It's just kicks. I think
Yeah,
that would be a really funny kind of way of tying it to stuff.
like skating boots, like roller boots, even would be awesome.
And that's like essentially dash for like people that aren't running dash.
Yeah. Obviously, we've got gadgets in Roboquest, which I'd argue are more adjacent to perks in Deep Rock than power ups. Obviously, we only have one power up so far. I mean, but if you were to like, obviously, these are the more some of these are more obscure. Like, obviously, something like a jetpack or that. That's more like in the line of a power up or a perk that's we already have in Deep Rock. But like you have something like the battery burger, and it's like restores 0.5 health, 0.5% health for each power cell spent. I mean, could you even translate something like that to Deep Rock? I mean, I we can just move on, but it's like, I can't imagine anything comes to mind. But obviously, sandwiches do come to mind, obviously. But that's kind of a different thing. That's for power cells spent, and if you were to translate that, you'd probably end up with something like when you spend nitro or whatever, but it's not like the same thing. This plays with a part of this is the kind of thing where it's not like it's incongruent with Deep Rock a little bit because it's playing with a system that Roboquest that Deep Rock just doesn't, which is like spending your power cells on the fly and stuff like that.
With, gaining power cells obviously is something leveling up, but also like cooking gloves. Weapon affixes. That's not a thing in Deep Rock, really.
No, I mean it would be if we did have some kind of roguelike mode, probably. And you would re-roll to like get different upgrade selections. You would like find random weapons, and then you would re-roll what upgrades they have, but it's still based on what's in the game. But maybe, well, I mean something like this would be fantastic. Explorer slippers. Obviously, I still don't quite know what floor traps are in Roboquest. I'm going to be honest.
I only assume that the words traps is like wrong, and it's just talking about like the hot floor. Like,
well, definitely. But what else? I mean, I saw like a really ridiculous idea for an anomaly actually, like a while ago. I haven't brought it up for some reason. This guy's idea was that it would basically remove enemies, but like all like environmental damage sources would be like ×5. It would be like, which is obviously really dumb. But I don't think we have a perk that just reduces environmental damage straight up. But that's because we usually divide it.
Elemental insulation is pretty close.
Well, you sort of have it divided up, don't you? You've got that, but then you've also got Unstoppable, which like helps you get through like blizzards and stuff. It's all sort of like divided, I guess.
Yeah, if you wanted the element to not have any effect on you, you would pick like those two things and be scout, right? That kind of thing, or a driller. Like you have ways, but it's not as easy as picking some slippers, which would be a funny option in the power ups department. It would be somehow
Wearing actual rabbits as slippers.
That would be up there.
Fanny pack. Obviously not, but I have thought about before. Like, you know, not something I would inherently want, but I've just thought about it. Like the idea of sacrificing your tools, both of them, to take a third weapon. But obviously, that's not inherently useful. That's just like a crazy idea that might not even end up being that fun. But it's still something. Not at all. There you go.
Fucking terrible idea.
Well, it wasn't an idea.
Exactly. Couldn't even be considered one.
Oi, gaslighter. I didn't even realize it was called that. I mean, I don't know if that's intentional because obviously it is a gaslighter, but
this is gaslighting you and all.
Yeah, well, it's gaslighting if you're thinking you're helping by reviving your teammates, but it actually takes your health away. She takes. I might actually have something to say about that. But obviously this is just field medic Uh, obviously. But you know how obviously Roboquest has this thing. I mean, you know, but I mean, not everyone else might not. They have this thing where when you revive your teammate, you actually share your health with them to do so. Now, obviously, we wouldn't want that. We wouldn't want it to change to that in Deep Rock. But the ability to give health out is still something it brought up. I mean, I've thought about it before, and I've seen the same idea repeated of storing red sugar, but I'm not even necessarily thinking about that. If you could just literally just give your own health, like I would give my health to you.
A perk that basically it's like the quick revive, like insta revive. When you're reviving someone, it has an option there, as in give health, and you would just give half of your health to them, right? Something like that. Boom.
As in, it's like I do kind of. I know that they're like very careful with this kind of thing, but it's the reason why, and it's the reason why sometimes I wish they were a bit less careful. Now, for example, I don't feel like they're being that careful with the overclock changes recently. They did describe them as fast and loose. I think they're just trying shit, but it's paying off clearly. But I mean, like, I would like to see something similar with perks. Like, just throw in a perk that does that, and if it's terrible, like, as long as it's not like too much work, I don't quite see how it could be. But if it's like really terrible, it doesn't have to stay around. And that's the kind of thing that could go away in experimental, even. But like, just I wouldn't mind trying something that lets me share my health, basically. Anyway, well, obviously we can't crouch, so we can't do that. Obviously, you know, jump height. It's like I feel like the rocket boots are the we've hit the ceiling literally in terms of how much they're going to alter like jump height, basically, and that's obviously just a jetpack. The rocket boots are the jetpack. Part of me wishes they really were a jetpack, but obviously that would just be that's kind of pointless. That's just arbitrary, then like modeling, and it's something only your friends would see anyway. It doesn't matter that it's just rocket boots. But that's exactly what that is. Pogo stick is a bit different though. Not saying that's a good idea. Oh, that's what the pogo stick is here. But I mean, I'm thinking about a literal pogo stick in Deep Rock.
Right.
But yeah, okay. But at the same time, yeah, probably not because like I said, I don't think they can add anything else that alters jump height really. They've been pretty careful about that, and I don't think this is them breaking the mold. I think the rocket boots are just going to be an exception. And the rocket pants are what, you know, we got the Deep Rock rocket boots coming. They used to be this, as in the very initial concept was a perk that gave you an additional jump. The rocket boots. Actually, that might not be true. I can't remember if rocket boots was its own thing or if double jump was a separate perk. Either way, the rocket pants gadget is just a double jump perk, and well, I'm only pointing this out because I know that's something we're not getting. Basically, they scrapped it for a reason, and we're not getting double jump ever again unless they do it. In which case, I'll eat my words. But yeah. But then we have roller boots, which obviously I brought up. As like one of if you said if they were just all shoes, we would get roller boots, and this has something to do with rail grinding, which obviously if you were to translate directly, you would get like the refinery rails. But I want to bring those up anyway because I think I would love to see those rails be used more, basically. Like as in somehow have them be in other mission types. I don't know how that would happen, but I really like the rails in Roboquest. It's something that really doesn't need to be there. Like almost same with the head bonking. But it is there, and you can only just do it. It's not even that useful, but it is there, and it's a lot of fun. And I sort of I liken that to what they did with the refinery rails anyway, where they didn't need to make it so you could like grind on them, but they did that anyway. And I'm not advocating for a perk that is only useful in one mission type, and also, go on.
Well, no, I was just getting comfy first of all, but something simple like some form of like horizontal movement buff, right? Like a dash, or you keep your momentum, or something like that, or there's a higher momentum you could achieve, something along those lines.
I mean, I'd love like a roll, right? Obviously, it's like it would be sort of like dash, but very much so dialed back, right? As in, you wouldn't cover anywhere near as much distance, but it would be any direction you want, like a roll, like move. You just like roll to the side or roll backwards even. But it's not like increasing your overall movement speed. It's just like a single move. I was going to bring up the sunglasses, but not specifically what they do. Although it says increases damage dealt by the player to any of the 30%, also removes 30% of the player's health pool. I mean, if you were to take that effect, that sort of goes into that idea that we had a while ago of like unstable perks, which isn't completely out of the question, but it was we brought it up as a new type of perk for a reason.
Yeah.
But I sort of, for some reason, like
doesn't fit that.
No, not at all. I mean, I was just thinking about sunglasses in general, and sunglasses, like, I don't know. I was thinking about flashbangs for some reason, and I realised Deep Rock doesn't have flashbangs. It was like, sunglasses as like an accessory, or like a gadget, would mean you weren't like affected as much by like visual interruptions, but Deep Rock doesn't really have those, to be honest. Anyway, I suppose there's no dilly-dallying now, because the only place left to go is weapons.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. No, it's not. What about enemies? What about bosses? Which we have to get to, but maybe we can do weapons for a little bit. And obviously we've got all of this stuff. There's so many. Ball cannon, which is like the old like EPC bouncy plasma. Which has got all this stuff. Blast palms, baby. I mean, I'd love something like that. Like a dual wield, like sort of miniature, like hand based things. I don't know.
Yeah,
there's just so many.
Kind of thing.
Blunderbuss, chainsaw, Buddy. You haven't seen Buddy Bot, have you? There's a weapon.
Oh, I don't think so.
I got him. But then there's there's like these cryo stuff. We got the cryo cannon, which is not actually like the cryo cannon in Deep Rock. This is like this cryo cannon is actually that snowball rework we proposed, basically, isn't it?
It's always snowball. It shoots giant snowballs.
Yeah, as an alternate fire mode. And I think the cryo launcher is probably not as valid, because the cryo launcher is like they're more like, but they're not actually bullets, but they're more like bullets, like a spread of like ice bullets. And that's not what you'd get on the cryo cannon. That would be for a different weapon, I think. Really.
Yeah.
But you've got all of this dual stuff. But I don't know how you would really translate that. Dual Uzis is a Zukos, so that's fine. But then you have like dual crossbows or dual sort of shotguns, and I think of like, I mean, what is it? It was one of my, and it wasn't a good one, or at least you made it clear it wasn't a good one. It was one of my old Tabata overclock ideas, where it was like you just get two of them, but I can't remember what else it did. I don't see what reason you would have to have two boomsticks though. But still, kind of weird. I want more dual wield weapons in Deep Rock, basically. As in, I think whenever they do like another set of weapons, one of the things they need to do is another dual wield one. Obviously, it's got to matter. I don't want to do a dual wield weapon just for the sake of it, and I also don't inherently think that Roboquest here gives us like a perfectly unique. But actually, apart from that, the blast palms is a perfectly like unique dual wield like concept you could go with. The rest is just like, we've got crossbows, so there's no point making smaller ones. We've got pistols and shotguns. We've got dual Uzis already, but we don't have whatever the fuck this is. So maybe that. And I mean, I want the barrel cannon. I don't even necessarily like in Roboquest, but that's like just like
Giant revolver, isn't it?
Hmm?
Isn't that the giant revolver?
I guess it is like a giant revolver, but I wouldn't say it feels like one. It's like if this kind of thing was in Deep Rock, it would basically be like the next step of Gunner, as in Gunner's just on a path to like get less ammo but more explosives in all of his weapons. And so you would go even further. You basically have something that fires like things that are almost as strong as grenades, and you'd have like an even smaller ammo pool than the Hurricane. That's just, if you want to go for like quite a simplistic but also very natural progression of Gunner's primaries, you'd go for something even more explosive and just forceful, but like much less ammo even. And the barrel cannon is just exactly that. Obviously, ammo isn't really a thing because everything has infinite ammo, but still.
Primaries are slowly heading towards engineers' secondaries.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. And the barrel cannon is like just before like a grenade launcher, basically. But it's still like this sort of like a semi-auto, possibly even automatic cannon. It's like maybe 6 rounds per clip. Like it would still have a clip, and it would have like up to maybe 100 total ammo. Um, but it's like it's almost more like a grenade launcher than the Thunderhead. I mean, and we just have all of this stuff like this weird. Like I like the fact that you do have a normal minigun, but then you also have whatever the fuck a blast minigun is. That sort of fires like homing plasma, and I think there's room for like homing overclocks in Deep
Plasma
Rock.
of every type of gunny, really. Like the blast shotgun, plasma shotgun. That's definitely something that I think is up there as far as things they could do. Deep Rock.
Any of them, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know about the sniper. I mean, what about a blunderbuss? We need a blunderbuss. I mean, what even is a blunderbuss really? As in, what's unique about it? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the blunderbuss is essentially the new double barrel.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like Grandma's shotgun is actually that. To be honest,
Grandma shotgun fucking sucks. Don't bring that up.
what do you? Does it? Does it?
Yeah, I do not like Grandma's shotgun.
All right, bubble splasher. Ignore that because the bubble splasher actually sucks, and you can tell it sucks because it's like just there's nothing else that actually looks like it. It's just completely on its own.
Yeah.
It's just this weird like toy bubble gun. Like it really is, and it's not very good. That's like one of the worst weapons in Roboquest, really. Also we got our elite crossbow. Yeah, whatever. A flare. Well, we got a flare gun, but if the flare gun could do what this flare gun does, I'd love that. Which is just mark things, just basically. As in, I don't know if you could get away with that necessarily. I was thinking just literally just have the flare gun do that. But that's like one of the things. I still don't quite see why Scout's flare gun doesn't deserve to have some kind of combat utility. I mean, obviously, lighting an area up is useful, but I mean beyond that, something like what this flare gun does, I don't see why not. Basically, I don't even remember what the graviton launcher is really. That's because it's not that special. It just fires like explosives.
Yeah, pretty much. But like fancy ones.
Yeah, and then the junk beam is just the shard diffractor.
Yeah.
I don't know if how easy I can find this. As in, it's gonna be a lot of keywords. If I try to look up the shard diffractor, cause it like obviously it functions pretty much the same, but even the design is the same if it's the custom engineered one.
I don't think you. I mean, you probably do realize how fucking terrible pictures are in this game. Like nobody has photos of any of it.
Well, you got that,
Yes.
and if I don't know if. Well, I'm trying to click on I clicked on the junk beam picture. There it is. See? It's like I'm talking about that part. It's like exactly the same.
Yes, except not at all.
Definitely not at all.
Definitely not at all.
No, you use not at all very incorrectly. They're hardly the most different things in terms of like look. I mean, yeah.
Shut up.
Well, yeah, Kramer. I like it's called the Kramer. We got the Kramer, we got the CRISPR, we got all this random bollocks.
Ignore the laser saw.
No, I'm not actually, because no. I definitely want a laser saw or like something that shoots Thor blades, just in general. Because like, yeah, we got all this stuff like a long rifle, militia rifle, but they really said like quite specifically, we don't want to just do like an assault rifle that just handles differently. You know, we don't want to do an assault rifle that just fires slightly slower or whatever. And this isn't a hit on Roboquest, obviously, because Roboquest is a looter shooter in part, and that's why you get all this stuff. And obviously, affixes help them all feel unique anyway. But you can't see something like that. But a laser saw launcher, sure. And we also have a longbow, as in a tech-based bow, not crossbow. I still think there's room for it in Deep Rock. I still think we could do it. Somehow. But I don't want to get into that as a discussion necessarily.
Mine gun.
Well, mine gun's just. I don't think they would do a mine gun because I think those overclocks aren't particularly popular, and those overclocks also exist. So I don't think they would want to make a weapon based on an unpopular category of overclocks. To be honest.
Oh, no. Are you referring to embedded detonators? And because that's what mine gun is.
Well,
You shoot
it is, isn't
explosives,
it?
and then when you decide, it blows up. That's embedded detonators and explosive reload. Which, if anything, in all fairness, then yeah, they've got it in the game already. They don't really need an entire gun based on it. But features with an entire gun based on it tend to be quite good. Like how the size pump is just sticky flames, but the gun. Um, Maybe embedded detonators, the gun would be pretty rad.
Hmm.
But instead of embedded
Well, no, because the
detonating it,
mine gun is both the
right.
mine layer and embedded detonators. Not obviously, it doesn't have a proximity thing, but it's still explosives, like actual explosives, like area. Obviously, embedded detonators is not area explosives.
But you would just shoot it in there, and there'd be like little spiky balls, and it would hit the glyphid, do like not a lot of damage, but reasonable amounts, and then you would kind of just splatter a horde in them, and then you just press, I don't know, a button, double tap reload, and it would just boom, and then like the entire horde would just explode. Which theoretically you would just want to kill them quicker than that, but it would also be really
It'd be
cool.
very satisfying.
It would
It's
be
literally
very.
there to be more satisfying than actually useful,
Yeah. Well,
almost.
probably a more reasonable would be bang bang and then you detonate it, right? You would shoot like two at a time and like both sides of a glyphid or something. Get an actual good, reasonable balance of the two. But you could also just spray like your entire, I don't know, 10 round clip into the horde and just like maybe you can reload without detonating them all. They probably also really have a detonating
Oh,
timer,
you
which will hopefully
definitely
be a
wouldn't.
little while.
That definitely would. No, there would definitely be a thing about you wouldn't. I don't think you'd be able to do that.
Why not reload with all them in there?
No, you'd definitely be limited at least to a magazine. That's the
You
most that
could
you can have out at
reload
once.
without mine layer going off. Um,
But well, yeah, obviously mine layer, but mine layer also just goes off anyway.
exactly, it would do that, but there'd probably be a mod that would like tone it down or give you more time.
Well, I wouldn't mind a mine gun because it still shoots like projectiles, and if you could detonate them in midair still, then I wouldn't have a problem with it because I think that would be
Yeah,
interesting
of
as
course
well.
you would. You'd be detonating it whenever the hell you feel like.
Sick. All right, cool. Let's do it.
Oh,
All right, let's go. Let's go do it now. No, no, not them. Us.
okay. Let's just I don't know, learn how to code. I guess probably a good
Anyway,
start.
I don't know why this is called this. Obviously, we don't need to call it a minigun. Because it's not called either of these things. It's called the windmill rifle in game. Not called a mini rifle or windmill. Either way, the only thing I have to say about that is something that ramps up in fire rate the more you fire it. Give that to the minigun. Oh yeah, Thunderhead does do that, doesn't it? I mean, yes, obviously. Anyway, fuck off. Missile Gatling. That's a rocket rifle. It's a rocket.
Yeah.
As in, it's a cut weapon. It burst fires micro missiles. And the only thing there is, the only thing I have to say about that is, people like these weapons go ship. So
Bring it back.
bring it back. Bring mortar. So I'm going to click on this because mortars are cool. Sure, wouldn't mind gonna get like a mortar primary or something, or just some kind of mortar somewhere in the game somehow. But I'm just thinking about the design more than anything. The dragon.
This is a fella.
I want a dragon.
Yeah.
I want a dragon-shaped weapon. I mean, we kind of thought that, and this was a while ago now, that the Scale Brigade flamethrower might be like have like a dragon head on the front or something.
I think
Um,
a goofy, funky framework would be maybe funny.
okay.
For like Halloween or something. Like they worked on it for like a while. It would do this to like all the guns. Like it would try and turn like any gun it can into like some goofy thing. Um, like the
Warthog would
M1000
actually
like a
get like a
rainbow
snout and tusks.
snake, or something. Um, the Sabata would be a little like a
A
mouse or
little
something.
mice.
Um, I don't know, something like that, and they stick like googly eyes on them. It is. Shut up. Moving on. But yeah, the mortar is cool.
Yeah, moving on to power gloves. Which,
Drills.
well, kind of.
It's a melee weapon, so ignore it.
No.
Yes.
I mean, I don't have to say anyway. You like the pulse blaster for some
I
reason, and
love
I do not respect that in the slightest.
It's so good.
Yeah, you got any ideas for it?
Yeah. Add it.
Add it. But could it not even be like a DRAC thing? I can imagine like a DRAC overclock with like
Light homing.
like delayed, maybe slower, but homing. Like that'd be pretty cool actually. Like as in quite
Light homing,
quite a
delayed
bit slower. Yeah, yeah. Pumping shotgun. No. Rifle crossbow. I'm gonna skip. Obviously, we don't need to talk about revolver either. Rifle crossbow though, only because well, you know, we proposed it before. Yeah, an automatic. Yeah, for the crossbow, for the bolt shark, not like a new weapon. An overclock for it, where it would be automatic fire with the standard bolts, basically, and that would also transform it, where you have that majorly like changed like quarter damage, but like quadruple ammo thing. So you just have like a repeater. Yeah, easy. And obviously, people like could come at that and be like, "Oh, that's not very good," but I think it does equal like a lot more damage based if you like, get weak point hits. I'm not sure. Rocket launcher. Deeprock doesn't have one. Does it need one? I don't know. I don't think the Roboquest one's very good though. I don't think
You've really they really tie the rocket launcher and grenade launcher to the same thing. Like the fact that the grenade launcher has the essentially rocket jump overclock is part of it, I think.
I wouldn't even say essentially. I would say like just absolutely.
Entire
RJ 250 rocket jump 250 compound.
Yeah.
Exactly what it is. And there was a rocket launcher a very long time ago. I actually don't know if it was in public builds, but it existed at one point in development.
They clearly have decided to not do a simple rocket launcher. And then obviously we have got the Hurricane, which while not that rocket launcher and the rocket launcher everyone thinks of is a rocket launcher.
Yeah. The only reason you would add a rocket launcher, is because it should have one, I guess. But that's like not really a real thing. And but I mean,
they know that. They know they'll be doing it for the sake of doing it, not because it actually belongs in the game.
Yeah, I mean the PGL fulfills the role of an RPG, you know.
Yeah, no, they clearly don't want a rocket launcher in their game. At least an obvious, boring, simple one.
Scout sniper. Oh. Anyway, I'm not gonna harp on. Fuck. I'm not gonna harp on this too much, but I do in general, and this is not really a Roboquest specific thing at all. The M1000, I would love it to get an overclock that actually increases the zoom, possibly even gives it like a scope like visual, where it is like you're scoping in, and it increases the zoom and like the weak point damage or something. I'd love that. And I guess the downside would be like it's like you know how snipers you kind of like move a lot, like because you're breathing.
That's how you're gonna get mauled.
Yeah, maybe doesn't fit in Deep Rock that much. Scratch rifle only because it is essentially a GK2. It's just an assault rifle, but it always comes with a grenade alt fire. So yeah, give us that overclock. Basically, pretty simple. Sheriff's Carbine is another M1000 because it's just an explosive like rifle, and I wouldn't mind that the M1000 just trying an explosive overclock for it. So go off, I guess. But the next thing that comes up, and I'm gonna absolutely group these two together because they basically represent kind of, it's mainly the shock cannon, what like a driller electric weapon would look like, basically. Kind of in a more rifle sense, as in these two are basically the same, one's just smaller. But that sort of brings up the idea of maybe it doesn't need to be on driller. As in, if you take the shock rifle, you could turn the stubby into something that's basically a shock rifle. And I think the stubby kind of deserves that.
Shock rifle, like it's clearly the point, right? Like I was thinking, like, oh, you know, I mean, engineers should probably have an electric weapon, considering his kit's kind of it. I mean, Scout is actually a lot more electric dependent, but Engineer has like some of it. But yeah, it has the stubby. It's just so not worth talking about.
Yeah. And I think if we are going to keep getting these sort of weapon reworks per se, Stubby's next on the chopping block, basically. So
yeah,
only because I think um, it's gonna be engineer next as well, right? Because
Yeah.
hold on, well, Gunner hasn't
Yeah, I had
got
it twice.
what? Huh?
Well, Sarge Pump and Sabata.
Yeah, Dredders had two, and then obviously Scout had the GK2. But I mean, what does Gunner really need? Like the Burt could do some help, but I actually don't think the Burt needs like. I don't think the Burt and the coil gun both have problems, but they don't need to be reworked, in my opinion.
No.
Really.
It's like what's currently going on with the other weapons. Just changing up some overclocks will do the Burt a lot of good and the core gun a lot of good. They could do them both a lot of good right now. They're not, but they could.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean,
Maybe they see it as an issue further down than something they could just do right now. That's the interesting thing, right? They're clearly just kind of going through the list of things people complain about, things they probably noticed, and they're just fixing it in a surface level way. Sitting there, let's see how it goes. And anything they don't touch is going to be really interesting. It either means that they think the issue is far deeper than anything they can tackle, or that they don't think there's an issue.
or
Or
they're
that they don't
just not gonna
know.
get to. But they might not. They just might not get to everything within like. They just might not get to everything right now. They might want to stop because they got other stuff to do. You know.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot. It could be because of the changes they've made, right? Because of the ones that you wouldn't expect, right? They've changed a lot of overclocks you wouldn't expect them to. That tells me that, or at least based on those ones, there's a lot they could change because they've touched quite a few already that weren't in like really dire situations. So there's like dozens now because of that fulfill the criteria based on the ones that they've touched so far. And they might just want to not do it all in one go because they might want to do other stuff. Anyway, I'm not gonna say much about the Soul Phaser shotgun other than if Gunner got shotgun primary, it'd probably look like this. That's all I'm saying. It'd just be this fucking massive rotating barrel shotgun, which I would like, by the way. Anyway, throwing knife because it's there, and Scout should get a throwing knife grenade. That's what I'm saying. Although maybe not anymore, unfortunately. You know, it was like it should have been a thing, but now it isn't a thing. As in, it won't be a thing because. Anyway, I don't know what about. I don't know anything about these guys. They suck.
It's just salvo module again.
It is. It is. Yeah, absolutely is. And also, we got a throwing axe too. But that's Roboquest having a throwing axe. So good on them. It's good on them. Actually, that makes the amount of weapons in the game feel smaller than it is. I mean, not that it's not a short list, obviously, but going through them like that makes it feel like there's less than there actually is. I mean, I don't know if the assault sentry is anything, but probably not.
It's just NG sentries. Maybe the fact that you can actually shoot a sentry yourself is something.
Oh yeah, the fact that the sentry comes out their gun. Yeah. Is that anything? It's like a Thunderhead looking thing almost, and a little Thunderhead on legs would be quite entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is based wholesale though on. Hold on, does it move? Let's hope it doesn't move,
no,
does
not
it?
normally, but remember it can. There's a prefix that makes it move, and it really freaked me out.
Do you think that's based straight up on the Borderlands thing?
Could be. I don't quite recall.
Just the one where it walks. Anyway. I might, because I was thinking about the enemies, right? Roboquest enemies, and most of them kind of blend together. There are unique enemies and ones that stand out, but you don't tend to kill anything in particularly different ways. I'm not sure how much we can get from enemies.
Not it'll be stuff for like rival century based enemies, right?
Yes.
That would be a lot of where ideas come from, and I'm not interested in doing that because they're fine. Leave them. I don't want to think about them. So let's just tackle the bosses.
Here they are, the boys. I mean, Billy Boone's probably going to be the least useful
Billy Boom
one.
is essentially a a detonator. If you disagree, shut up. You
Well,
get close, it gets close to blowing up, and if you blow up, you lose the whole ass game. So pretty similar similarities there.
great. Diggy Mole. Yes, please. As in Tiki Mole's sort of a moveset of just digging, burrowing under the
Yeah,
ground and whatnot. You got that in the twins, I suppose, but I would love an enemy that really does feel like a tunneler of sorts, like a big fucking mole. Or, I don't know, evil Director. I don't know. I guess. Sure. Director with charge suckers on her. Does he have, I don't remember him
yeah,
turrets.
I
Oh, he
get
does
that.
have,
Yeah.
he doesn't have turrets. He's got turret form, I guess is what it says. And he fucking shoots a bunch of plasma balls at you. Anyway, oh shit, it's Dr. Turret. What an asshole. As in, he's not very useful either. I mean, I guess we should think about sort of boss types, but I don't know how much these three necessarily stand out. And obviously, Dr. Turret I might want to just ignore because I really don't want any more stationary bosses.
The turret is like a caretaker, right? It's just a stationary guy.
I
You
mean,
fight around him,
in
right?
terms of
Or
like a single attack, though, he's kind of got the laser that he spins around with. I wouldn't mind something like that, maybe. But you have to jump over it as well, like, and it just spins around, sort of like when someone like just like game you play where someone swings like the rope around.
you wouldn't be able to do that unless it's a stationary enemy with a purposefully flat floor. Otherwise, that
That's
would be too
true.
ridiculous.
Well, yes, that
Plus,
is.
Omen.
Oh yeah. Although that would be like not a bad like variation of that, like the bottom one though. As in, it's not
Yeah,
like it's more like a plasma like whip that it just spins around with. It's more like
or like a plasma ring where it like
yeah.
these waves and wave and wave, like probably slower than that.
Also, his homing missiles are very similar to the drones, where it's just it's very quite slow thing that will just do a shit ton of damage to you once it reaches you, and you can sort of shoot out the sky. Yeah. These guys, however, are a bit more mainly Sir Catacoaster because he's got it going on. And yeah, right. So Sir Catacoaster, obviously a worm. We want worms. We want worms, giant worms that sink cities. But and actually, Sir Catacoaster is basically just a destroyer, though. I realise from Terraria. But anyway, I'm thinking a bit about the fight itself, right? And obviously, it's all about being on the rails. And actually, this is a slight criticism of Roboquest. I do think that fight is a little bit maybe janky when you try and stay on the rails all the time. As in, I find it
Really, really annoying.
yeah, it's pretty. But the idea of some kind of giant enemy that's made maybe a web that you could grind on. I don't know. I'm just thinking I do want that mechanic to be used more in Deep Rock, and it being used specifically for a boss fight does not anger me. Although sometimes you can kind of do it, as in when I get an omen on a refinery mission, I'll always make sure I build a pipeline across the omen, like across all the three platforms. I like doing that, and maybe it's similar to that. And but then I mentioned the destroyer, and obviously we mentioned the destroyer when we talked about the destroyer. I don't hate the idea of the, and it's like it's a robot. I don't hate the idea of the rivals getting a giant worm, but because that's pretty cool. At the same time, I just want a actual giant worm from Hoxie. It's like a giant earthworm, you know?
When you're in bug-based space, you would hope a worm-type enemy would be a biological worm and not just a robot. Because robots can be whatever the fuck they want to be. They don't need to be inspired by real animals. That's what the glyphids are for, and the Manteras are for, and the woodlouses are for. Stuff like that, right? It's just why not add a worm or a centipede type enemy? Either or.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Oh, but yes. Judge Ball. What an ass face. Now, I have a specific idea for Judge Ball, which is actually to do with the caretaker, unfortunately. Because I remember seeing an idea, and I really like it, which is just the idea of just different shaped caretakers. Was that your idea?
No.
Someone said something like that. Someone said that, and, as in I didn't come up with it.
It's an idea currently with different type shaped omens. You might be mixing that up.
No, not omens. No.
Omens. The Omorans.
Also, no. I remember speaking about the caretaker, and it'll just be different shaped ones, I guess. But the Judge Ball is, I guess, sort of a cat. He's definitely a nemesis. He does have a shield attack, doesn't he? Where he like shoots the shield at you.
He just goes shielded. I don't know what the Judge Ball is. I think the Judge Ball is just a piece of shit. He's just like attack.
I do kind of prefer it to the Catacoaster, though, to be honest.
I guess, yeah, because as long as you can survive that, he's pretty easy to kill.
Yeah, hold on. Where's El Mosquito?
Not on him.
He should be. Hold on. Yeah, he's not.
We'll do it in the early bit.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a more recent one then.
Yeah, he is. He was Winter Update.
Oh, well, there you go. But obviously, we do have Beetle Royale and Uncle Jim. And I don't know about these guys at all. I mean, Beetle Royale sort of reminds me of fucking. I don't see why you would know what this is, and I've almost forgotten his name. Shit. Damn it. Okay, this is gonna be dumb as hell. But you gotta let. Okay. There he is. All right. As in, I'm just showing this because what I'm about to show you is basically the organic version of Beetle Royale. As in, this is Beetle Royale as an actual creature. So why can't we get some kind of horrific mutated, like anthropomorphic beetle enemy? Is what I'm saying.
He's absolutely fucking ripped.
I know. I love this guy. I mean, this is one of my favorite Pokemon.
Don't blame you.
Boswell. I know. He's look at him.
Even a Pokemon of like, isn't he? Is he not? Is he actually just a Pokemon, or I thought he was like a mega version of one.
He's not a mega version. They're Ultra Beasts, which are these sort of weird Pokemon, but they're not like different forms. There's Mega Buzzwell. That's not real, but that's a fan creation. Either way, I'm just pointing this guy out because that's quite like Beetle Royale. And I mean, also he does fly. I want beetles basically. I want beetles. Anyway, Uncle Jim doesn't give us anything.
Uncle Jim.
He's not anything. He's kind of whack, actually. Let's ignore Uncle Jim and see. Hold on. If I just. This isn't going to work, is it?
You're going to need way more. There's not a universe where Roboquest is going to come up.
I know.
If you knew that, then why didn't you do it?
I mean, because it's not mosquito. I mean, it's not spelt. It's not spelt that way anyway.
What are you even up to?
Wow. Okay.
It's not a known game, Harry. I don't know. And you said it spelled it wrong. I don't know what you were expecting. What are you doing?
If he was in the winter update, then it should be on. It should be somewhere in like that post or something, right?
You would, yeah.
We just need to show people El Mosquito. Fuck! There's no pictures of him. There's no picture. What? What is that? It's just. Oh, damn it. Anyway, okay, El Mosquito is just a robotic mosquito, basically. That's it.
Don't bother then.
He's a fly. He's a fly boss.
That was the point.
That's the point.
We need a Mactera based boss. We need it. We need it. We need it.
Yeah, okay. But there is. Okay, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but there's something they talked about in that yesterday, in the stream, where they actually someone asked them if they just have any like future season ideas, and they were like, well, yeah, of course we do, because basically, but not like currently, in the sense that they had like a discussion when they first like decided to do seasons, where they just brainstormed a bunch of shit, and they only mentioned a couple. I'm sure there's way more than this, but the only two that they mentioned was archaeology, which I don't know what that means, like an archaeology season, and then
Well,
they
what you
just
saying that was going to be season 1?
like maybe, but when they talked about it, they talked more about just finding like artifacts and relics and stuff, which I guess wasn't too dissimilar. But they also mentioned like just a Mactera season, and I heard that and I was just like, yes, that's perfect. A season just focused on something that we already have. It's just about Mactera, and that would inevitably lead to a Mactera boss because, frankly, they deserve one. In fact, I really would really love them to somehow figure out a way to put it in elimination. Even I would have loved that. I mean, it wouldn't really make sense, but
Yeah, I
it
mean,
would be awesome.
yeah, I don't think I'd want like a game mode based on it. I don't want that. I just want a Mactera boss, right? Um, I guess I don't know. Yeah, preferably he would kind of just be in elimination, and it would be like a flying variant of the dreadnoughts. Um, I mean, you could do I don't know, like a Mactera put their young in the cocoon and like ate out the Praetorian, and it like evolved in there.
Oh, well, I mean, I was thinking it would be quite simple because they seem to get along anyway. Um, as in, you wouldn't need to do something like that. You could just put a Mactera, like, I don't know. Or actually, sorry.
So once again, the hive idea that we have would probably be a shout for a Mactera season, right? You would enter
Yeah, I know. I
hive.
mean, I'd like it to be Deep Torah because that's actually like a hive, and then it'd be more like bees and
Yeah. Plus,
honey.
as much as I want Mactera bosses, I fucking hate Mactera, so I wouldn't really want. I wouldn't want to fight shit tons of them. I just want to fight a giant Mactera. Uh,
Yeah. Anyway,
oh, giant bee.
sorry, this just inspired something though, which is going to be, I guess, this is going to be a very long in advance teaser for the Borderlands episode because you remember the VAR kids, they're just the bugs that
Yeah,
like they change like forms, they cocoon like mid combat.
evolve. Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a boss that comes out of that. Basically, they keep evolving, they keep going and going until eventually they turn into, I think it's Vermivorous the Invincible, which is actually one of the raid bosses, and it's a raid boss that actually comes out of just letting them evolve that far. Um, as in, I would love if that's how we ended up getting a Mactera boss. It's just something that they could
But like,
do.
there
He just
is a
does
type
it.
of Mactera that if you let evolve, will turn into a boss,
Yeah,
which would be cool, if only for two reasons. It would mean that that boss wouldn't be a full-on boss, right? It would be unreasonable unless the thing is very, very rare. Um, because throwing bosses on people constantly would be really bad if that, especially if that boss is like a dreadnought. Like if you had to do a hive guard every other mission, you would kill yourself, right? Um, but if it's like a Mactera boss, which is like we're talking probably a half step above Nemesis in difficulty and like harassment, and that was something that you could opt into and or prevent if you can. That'd be pretty cool. Um, it's just some sort of, I don't know, like little spindly little fly, little shit fucker, little mangy little
sort of
rat.
reminds me of it doesn't function the same way, but it does remind me of the Lace Wing area that when you kill it spawns the Empress of Light. It's just this little bug.
Yeah,
It's like,
a
and
tiny
it's
little.
clearly a special one, but it's just this tiny little frail thing, and then it summons an entity.
Or it like if you like watch, maybe yeah, summons could be a one where like if it runs away, like if it gets away, like the what is it that was an idea, wasn't it?
Oh shit! Yeah, what is that? Fuck! that is something that is very clear in my mind that is something.
Yeah.
If you let it get
So
away, or
concepts of a Glyphid, that if it gets away, like a hoodie order would, it summons a swarm. This could be like some sort of small fly fuck, like a bit of a festively looking motherfucker, um, where if it flies off and disengages, a Mactera boss is like summoned essentially, which would be pretty cool. If a bit concerning and scary,
be
also
terrifying.
really cool.
It'd be like just this giant
It'd be
mass of
something
like
that like
legs and
pro
wings, and it's
players.
almost like weighed down by itself. It almost can't fly. It's like struggling to fly. It's just this horrible
Yeah, it would be
abomination.
something that the pro players could like any day of the week stop. Like they're entirely strong enough and capable enough to kill the thing, but they often let it go because they want to fight the boss. And it's something that low level players can't kill the enemy because it's too small and annoying, and always has to fight the boss that they can't stand fighting because it's too like strong or some shit like that. Like yeah, it'd
It
have
would
like that.
eventually, it would end up getting turned into an optional thing where it would actually, I, it would be really difficult depending on where it positions itself, but it would be more like if you engage it and it gets away, then it summons. It's not just inherent. Well, I mean, I assume you're probably thinking that anyway. It wouldn't just inherently be trying to escape before you even find it.
Yeah, yeah.
It'd be trying to
It would
escape
be
from
like
you once you engage it.
you
But
shoot it and you have like I don't know how healthy it would be. It would be probably like weirdly tanky for its size. Like we're talking like maybe the kind of feeling you get when you're fighting like the event fuckers, right? Like the
Prospector.
bunny or the
Oh right,
no
no.
yeah the bunny or the elf, the ones where it's like you should not be this tanky, like that kind of feeling. Um, and but even then though probably a good RJ not RJ 250 a good what's the single target?
Hyperpropellant.
A good hyper propellant will kill it instantly, and like a good couple shots of like a warthog at close range, that kind of thing, where like you can kill it pretty solidly if you aim it up right. But if you slip up and it gets away, then you're fucked, or you're lucky. Either or. Um, either way, that would be a cool way of like, adding a boss.
Oh, okay. So this is going to be a very broad thing, but you mentioned before, obviously, we've obviously taken note. It's hard not to the fact that Roboquest, all the enemies are robots. It's just all robots all the time. You're playing as robots. There's only one human character, but you sort of point out how it still kind of feels like you're killing things, as
Yeah,
in they almost feel kind of spongy, as in it make Roboquest does a really good job at making fighting robots feel quite satisfying. Is what I'm trying to get at.
yeah.
You think see where I'm going with this? I'm just saying I'm not sure exactly how they did it. I mean, I think how they did it is actually just the fact that everything just flashes when you hit them. That's a very easy way to make things feel more satisfying to shoot. They just flash when you hit
Plus, it
things.
dies well, right? Because the rival tech doesn't break. It doesn't bend. It explodes or falls, but it doesn't break, right? But in the stuff in this, when you hit it, it like or it doesn't really bend, but when it destroys it, like bends and like falls apart, crumbles and stuff like that. Like rival tech is so well built that if it doesn't explode, it doesn't get destroyed at all. Not even the tendrils get destroyed; they go back in, right?
Yeah, I
That
think
it
the
is
tendrils should be changed where they would sort of they would try and go back in, but you could kill them permanently. As in, if you get them really low, then they try and like go back in and heal. But you could still actually kill them, and then they're actually gone. Like that might be a
yeah,
better way
but
of
even
doing
then,
it.
if they added that, they would have just made the tentacles explode, not them like crumble to pieces with like technology everywhere. That's just not how they made the rivals, and it's kind of I think that might be part of it is that they are so brittle and solid. I know brittle really isn't the right word for that, but like yeah, the robots in RoboQuest you can dent. You may not actually be able to. Like I don't think that's a feature.
Well, they
Like
do. They do kind of flinch though, don't they?
yeah, they are malleable robots. They are like punching a computer. You would leave a mark and like bits would but rivals are like punching like a steel wall. it ain't gonna go well. Like you do the same damage to both, but the visual comparison of either, that's what you're looking at with these
Like
games.
when you're fighting a patrol bot, it doesn't obviously it does explode eventually, but when you kill it, it doesn't feel like you've killed it. It just feels like you've shot it so much that it's decided to self-destruct. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel
No
like you
visual
killed
damage.
it. It feel like you made it give up. It feel like you.
Even the caretaker, when you destroy the vents, no visual damage is done. It just goes.
Yeah, it just sort of goes into self-destruct mode. You
Yeah.
didn't really blow it up. It feels like, although I think the caretaker is still quite a good part of it. I think that death animation is actually not. I'm not gonna
Once
criticize
again,
that.
the death animation is just it deciding to like blow itself up, and not any damage that you actually did.
Yeah,
No,
that's. I mean, the
not visually
caretaker's
do any
not.
damage.
Well, the reason I don't think the caretaker's as bad is I think it should be quite like a. It's like very heavy feeling. It like slowly falls over and just detonates in like a massive. It earns
There
that
was
sort of
no harm.
epicness.
There's no harm in as you get through the stages, the first and second stage, the eye doesn't quite look right. Like it's misaligned when it opens or like stuff like that. And there's like wires and sparks coming out areas. And like there's notable cracks and dents and stuff like that. There was no harm in visually showing damage. And it's the same with all the other things. Like a
Mm,
low patrol bot looks identical to a healthy one.
yeah.
Um, which in all fairness isn't not true with normal enemies as well. Not including armor breaking, all enemies would look the same no matter what health they're on, right? Like using an oppressor, since they don't get armor broken, a full health oppressor and a low health oppressor looks identical. I think that is just a part of the game that you visually can't tell how low an enemy is unless some armor is broken and you can assume they've been hit, right? And I think it's just that issue quotation marks, I would call it more of a feature, um, become very prevalent and very concerning with rivals in particular, because the glyphids are fleshy and they do often have armor to break. They have got that layer of like malleability to the damage you do
Well,
to them.
this is why Nemesis is so good though, right? Because they just took all of like that stuff and they just turned Nemesis into the ultimate feedback machine. They were just like
Although
have it consistently breakable armor and even parts that you can straight up destroy as well. Like you expose
yeah,
its circuitry, by
yeah.
taking the armor off.
I do think the Nemesis was a step in the right direction, which means they probably noticed, right? They probably caught on to why the rivals feel so like lackluster to fight
Yeah.
against. They immediately sorted it out with the new enemy in season 2. But obviously they're not going to go back and redesign the rivals, right? Like
No, I think they're
the
gonna
amount
do
of
what they
reason
can
there are
every
for
now and
boosting
then. They
so
can do
long.
Yeah, they're gonna do what they can every now and then, but they're gonna keep them in their bubble. I guess the problem is that they're partially not in a bubble. The industrial sabotage thing is still an issue, frankly. But um, I don't want them to waste more time on it. To be honest, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not that I'm not gonna criticize them for not getting it right. I thought they should have got it right, but they just didn't, and it's time to give it up. It's time.
Some parts were making the rivals feel good to fight against. They should give up.
Yeah, but then you mentioned how it might be a deliberate feature that you can't really tell close things are to death, and I agree with that because with the rock box, it's clearly a thing where you can, especially now where they've decided to have it be if you destroy all the blisters, wherever it is will die no matter what. You can tell close
Yeah,
to death by how many blisters they have left. It's like
yeah. That's the thing though. Is it's not like some other games, not all of them, but they would have done it where a low health glyphid would have been like missing limbs and stuff like that, right? Like say in a zombie game, right? A low health zombie would be missing like an arm and its like chest or some shit, right? The damage it's
but
received.
then but it's just all zombies. Like Deep Rock's got quite a lot of enemies.
Yeah, I know, I know. Like I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that that is the case. Like visually, a low health glyphid and a max health glyphid is identical as long as no one broke armor on it. Like if they only ever shot like the face, you would not be able to tell if it was low or full health. Um,
I
without the health.
Yeah,
That's
I
why.
actually and I do
That
have
is
that
why.
issue sometimes. Yeah.
Because the game is like very very minimal in its like game elements playing it, right? Like you can literally turn off every single UI feature essentially in the game. Like generally, I mean, you then pull it up and you can see like the important shit. But like you can turn off essentially everything except health bars because you need health bars. There is no
But
other way of telling.
he is a valid substitute up to a point, and it was a valid substitute because the enemies still have good feedback from being hit. They have that, and
Exactly.
they also have
Armor doesn't
satisfying
break.
ragdolls. It's still satisfying to kill them as well, and you do have armor break as well. So to a point, the health bars work. They just don't work for the robots as much. That's all it
That's
is.
all they had. Robots was only health bars.
Yeah, yeah.
It then wasn't that you were tearing them to pieces like with armor or like because even like with the oppressor, the weak point flashed as you hit it like visually. Like there was still feedback there. But I mean, I think the patrol bots technically have a bit of that, but nothing worth writing home about.
Well, yeah, the patrol bots are annoying because they have their like the nemesis things where you break the armor and like expose like the circuitry. The patrol bot's like already exposed. It's like his head is like it's like exposed already. There should be like plating on top of that part. And then maybe you'd make it even more frail underneath, but it should be plating on its head that you would break open, like you're cracking its head open, basically, is what you should be doing.
Bitches when you hit him in the
You
ass,
should be
right?
able to shoot like the ball off, so it has to like fly or something, or maybe that grounds it even. I don't know. Maybe there's some way
Thing
to
is,
ground it. You could take out its like flight capabilities. Maybe I don't know.
I think that's the reason why they in RoboQuest the robots feel like real things because they
They kind of have to though as well.
yeah
Yeah,
they would
not that Deep Rock shouldn't. It's just it was a bit more detrimental to RoboQuest like as an entire game than the robots. Not that Ghost Ship shouldn't have done a better job. Um, it wasn't as important though.
I think it's just that they probably didn't realize that then like because once again I think they did realize it after because I don't think it's anything that they would have thought about before. They were like, okay, let's continue as is and then make these rivals. um, and like they make it somewhat pleasant to fight against because I wouldn't say I like the sound design because I think that's another thing.
In
Like
RoboQuest,
both. This is a comparison. Is that in Deep Rock, you were to let's say hit a shredder like with a pickaxe or drills or whatever, which occurs quite often. So it's a sound that I think most people can picture in their head. It's like a dink, right? Like it's like a sharp, a hard sharp object hitting another hard sharp object. That was a very hard thing to say.
hard
Like
sharp object.
clearly, yeah, clearly, like you hit it something that is would probably break your pickaxe before it breaks. That's kind of the sound it gives off.
Yeah.
And on purpose, because as mentioned, they are incredibly durable. They only ever die via exploding themselves, or just kind of giving up and falling to the ground. And both, if you're the caretaker. Um, but the in RoboQuest, they are like malleable. Like you really do feel like you're doing way more damage to it than it does to you. Like the way it sounds like you're just like hitting like actual metal, like a piece of tin can, essentially that kind of metal, rather than I don't know, fucking titanium rods.
What? Sorry, when someone says titanium rod, I find it funny.
Titanium rod.
Yeah, because of that. I mean, that for some reason that made me think of elements in RoboQuest, which I don't think is really a big deal. But maybe the way they handle shock is a thing to point
It
out.
is interesting.
If they have a
Elements because I
page
mean
for that.
there are they might there are like similarities there in that they have shock, cryo, and fire. Um, and generally
That's not
speaking,
exactly what I want.
they quite different in the two games. Quite different approaches, and I didn't realize there would be different approaches. Um, but shock in RoboQuest is freeze in Deep Rock essentially. If you shock a robot, it's just like and it like shocks in place for like ages. Even on bosses, you can do it pretty easily, um, which is pretty fucking cool and is definitely
Yeah.
probably a better shout than what like Ghost Ship did.
I mean, I think
I'm
freeze in Deep
sorry.
Rock is good. I mean, are you talking about you're talking about electricity specifically? So
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it should have been electricity that instantly destroyed rivals, not fire. Um,
yes, yes.
fire never made sense because they look like they're constantly overheating. They're literally red, right? Like
They are
the color
literally red.
design, the color design to be where if I hit them with fire and it did literally nothing, I would have been like, that makes sense. Right? It is like they are redder than the dreadnought, which is hard red and hard not fire. Don't even try it, you moron. Right? Like, they are. They would. It would make complete sense to me if they had good enough ventilation to get rid of fire. Um, I think cryo probably should do as little as it does now, but shock should have definitely have been the thing that works against it, and not fire, or maybe both.
Well,
Both wouldn't
basic.
have
Well,
been.
hold on, because how shock works in Roboquest is like you essentially build up a shock meter, and once you
Yeah,
shock them fully, they get stunned. Which I think is actually a very valid thing to add to Deep Rock to the shock effect, where it could still work as it does, but you could basically build up a meter every time that you electrocute something. It's like it ticks up in like 5 electrocutions in a row, then they get like mega stunned, maybe. So it's beyond normal stun. And you could stun anything with this effect, and it would be longer than normal. I mean, that could maybe even be a more specific thing, like a stubby overclock, but still, I like
well,
the
that's
way
definitely.
shock works in RoboQuest, and I'd love to see something like it. Deep
Yeah,
Rock.
it's definitely a thing worth mentioning. In that, generally speaking, shock as a status effect is probably one of the worst. As in, it definitely is. I think the only interesting thing about shock is that it really isn't its own status effect. Shock is like cryo cannon, but you have to build to make it like or make it like cryo, right? In the more often than not, shock is worth using when some other weapon gains a buff from using it against shock, right? Like Scout has like every single one of his weapon either deals shock or deals more damage thanks to shock. That's like a thing constantly. Um, I think an engineer deals shock quite a bit, but I don't think he has anything that deals more damage. Or is it? I think Shard Fracture has one, right? Um,
Yeah, I mean, I still think the upgrade deserves a little bit of changing. Maybe it should like refresh it or
yeah.
something.
Which I think is another issue, but that's just something I've just discovered. In that, even if the stubby was good, electricity as an effect is too bad, especially if it isn't being complemented with something else. Because I think electricity is really good on Scout. I think like his electric reload is obviously really ammo efficient, strong, and all that. But the electric on the Drac and even electrifying focus shots isn't bad as long as it's paired with a secondary
Mm.
bits from electricity. Right? And obviously, you don't even need a primary that does electricity because two of his grenades deal the electric status effect. Right? And all three secondaries have some. Oh no, two secondaries have some form of benefiting from it. Zhukov's and the Bolt Shark. Um, I think that's maybe probably the main issue with the Warthog, not Warthog, Stubby, but I've clearly gone off course here. My point being, Shock is very different.
But
As
they
in,
have
I think
this.
by far the best thing in RoboQuest and is by far the worst thing in Deep Rock Galactic.
It does have the arc thing. I was just thinking about the arc thing where obviously Stubby has electric arc as an upgrade. I feel like there should be a rework there in terms of both the Stubby and electricity, where electric arc should almost be a thing that electricity has quite a low chance, and then that upgrade in the Stubby would just increase the chance of it happening. Maybe electric arc should be a thing in general, but
But even
electricity.
then, I still think it would be worse than fire. It's just you wouldn't often get the choice of either, right?
Yeah.
It, it's just I don't know.
Sometimes you have both because the Drac does have both.
I think it being more maybe it should initially slow a lot more. Like upon electrocution, it should be like 90% slow,
I mean,
and then
it is 80%, Tyler. It's not
oh,
low. That's one of the things that I think is actually fine about it. I think it does slow things down enough. It's quite a lot. I unfortunately there's some things you can't slow down, obviously, which is not particularly fair. I see. This is another issue I have with the Stubby, but I also have this issue with Fire as well because of the Dreadnought's fit into the. Yeah. I get it on oppressors. Right? I get that you can't stop oppressors, but I feel like I don't like when certain things are useless against bosses. I feel like I should be able to shock or electrocute Dreadnoughts, to be honest. It wouldn't be crazy effective, but it would make you feel better. Seeing that electric effect on them as well, it just feels kind of good. But I get it with oppressors, because you're not meant to be able to stop oppressors, basically, is the idea. And I don't have a problem with that. I actually like that about them. I don't think just Dreadnoughts inherently earn that, though. So, yeah. But I mean, there's nothing. Obviously, you mentioned how Cryo and Roboquest actually isn't great, and there's nothing really different about Fire, except that I'd argue Deep Rock does actually have a more interesting, one of the more interesting applications of Fire, just with how it, just with the meter and how it spreads, and people like enemies have different like cooling rates and whatnot. It is quite interesting, and Roboquest doesn't really present anything in that sense.
Roboquest Cryo is like the fucking shocking Rock. The Cryo in Roboquest is literally slow. It slows them down. It doesn't slow how much they attack, so it doesn't affect any of the stationary targets, which there's a lot of them. Or enemies are already slow, where they attack constantly, and that's the issue. Like, it's Cryo fucking sucks in Roboquest, but it's like it is just funny. Cryo and electricity have switched in these two games, and Fire has played essentially identical through both of them, which is kind of funny. But that I think is another issue though, is that you know, if we want to treat the robots in Roboquest and the rivals in Deep Rock similarly, you can really see how different the approach was, right? In this game, Fire does just as much as it normally would, right? It's just fire; it does damage over time. But Shock, that comes out to play, and Cryo is, whatever, it slows them, and that is not at all how they approached it in Deep Rock. So these robots in RoboQuest are more like normal Glyphids in Deep Rock than the rivals.
And then we end up getting somehow end up some kind of situation where we get organic enemies in RoboQuest and they feel like shit to fight. It's like these awful bullet sponges that don't react. There's no blood because they forgot about it. Because they forgot. Yeah, I just noticed this thing though. This upgrade that Guardian can get. Well, Crazy Frog, while airborne, increases weapons and bash damage by 10%. Because of the amount of ways that you can be airborne now, I almost think a perk where you get a little bit of that would be kind of interesting. And then obviously, you get real lucky when you find rocket boots. Oh, nice! Now I'm a unit. But it's like any kind of airborne. I see, like even like hanging on the zip line, that would like, help Gunner a lot. Obviously, you'd have to balance that quite carefully. But I wish there were more benefits to being airborne, basically, especially now we've got these rocket boots. But obviously, the rocket boots themselves make things quite easy. But
in often case, being airborne is really fucking strong anyway, because there's not many enemies that could attack you. Is that not enough of a benefit?
Well, yeah, I mean, ideally it'd be an unstable perk then, I guess. Could even take extra damage or be more like aggroed when you're in the air, but you also deal more damage. I don't
know. No. I think if anything, it should be the opposite, where gunners should be pulled down from their zip lines with a perk that's called grounded, where if you're standing on the ground, you do some more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I really do like the idea. Obviously, it's like class specific perks probably won't ever be a thing anyway. I mean, they could, but gunner sort of having one where, as long as you're on the ground, you do more damage or something, or more accurate, but you'd be even slower. I don't know, something like that. Yeah, I mean, I've got one more thing that comes to mind for RoboQuest, which is literally just like the hub. RoboQuest hub is not finished, but you've got like the rails. I like the rails in the hub, and Deep Rock has rails like that you can grind on. Like I talked about the refinery pipes. I just want pipelines that you can grind on in the space rig.
I think
Some kind of
there is.
course, even you could build a course in the current space rig, or you can just have like a room, like a skate park, if you
I
want.
think
People would love that.
there could be an argument for like in the little room under the bar that there's like a pipe building kit.
Yeah, you should be able to build it yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can build your own. Yeah, absolutely. That would be brilliant. That would be one of the best space rig editions if they did that. I'm sure that'd be better than any of the mini games we've got currently.
Oh, that's rude.
Nah, they're good. But you know,
Everyone loves Flappy Bird.
no, they don't.
Okay,
No, they don't.
is this guy?
I mean, to be fair, we do parkour around the space rig anyway, but let's just jack it up, you know.
Yeah. I'm also pretty surprised that they're actually got like infinite field jet boots in the hub now, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess we do have those as well. That'd be even more fun if we had pipelines.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, I think this might be time to wrap this up. I reckon. Certainly nothing else is coming to mind for Roboquest. So,
All in all, if you're here, you play Deep Rock, play Roboquest. It's
yeah,
good. If you're here from Roboquest, play Deep Rock.
yeah.
It's good.
On both sides, you'll probably like. If you haven't played the other game, you'll probably like it. It's probably not far off your thing. I guess the only difference is like they are, aside from being shooters, yeah, they're different genres aside from being FPSs. Like, you know, I don't actually know what you call Deep Rock. I guess it's just it's just a co-op horde shooter. It's just a horde shooter, and then Roboquest is a roguelite. So there is that there. If that's a barrier for you, that kind of confuses me because apart from that, they're kind of just they're very close to each other. They just present a different, like, you know, I just feel like it's something that a fan of the other should enjoy, almost because it's not actually the exact same type of game. But the gameplay itself should still like speak to your sensibilities when it comes to games. Like the actual gunplay should be attractive to you on either side of the fence. But I think it attracted me that it's a game that I like, maybe because I like Deep Rock, I like Roboquest, but I also like Roboquest because it's not the same type of game at the same time. It's kind of weird.
And plus, it's on free on Game Pass, so
There is also that, and even then, it's worth money. So obviously, not every game is though. But you know, yeah. That was this episode of Feature Thief. I don't know if we want people to suggest games because we talked about how I don't think it's going to be inherently problematic if we ever did games that only one of us has played. I don't think that's inherently unreasonable, but probably not games that neither of us have played. Certainly not. Obviously, there is obviously the case of Roboquest was. We were told about it by a viewer. I mean, he's more than a viewer now, aren't you, Monkey? But even then, he told us about it. A viewer told us about Roboquest, and now we've done a video on it, or multiple. So it's possible, but we're not going to straight up do one on a game we haven't played before.
and I probably won't buy a game based on a suggestion either. So
Probably won't buy one. That's true.
the fact that it was on Game Pass is probably why we did bother playing it because it's just as simple as downloading it.
Yeah.
So
Next,
either it's a free game or it's Game Pass.
next will be Wizard with a Gun. Next,
Is that on Game Pass?
it's not out yet. I think it will be on Game Pass. It looks kind of cool.
Not out of that.
You'll probably like it. You'll probably like the look of it. Anyway, yeah, okay. We're done here. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you all so much for subscribing. The recent sort of growth channel has been ridiculous and greatly appreciated. So hats off to you guys, and hats. I'm going to take my hat off too. I'm not wearing a hat. Tyler, you wearing a hat? Do you own a hat?
Off as we speak.
Jesus Christ!
I don't actually own a hat. No. Yeah.
You don't need one though.
No. do not. Bye.
All right, he's gone. It's just you and me now. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Very much so. Peas. I am pleased to meet them.